Hi everyone, welcome to the series A Brief Guide to Thesis Write-Up. So we have already covered how to write chapter number 1, which is about the introduction of a thesis. Now let's start how to write chapter number 2. Chapter number 2 is about the literature review. So we have supposed a title which is structural and electronic properties of two-dimensional graphene using density function theory. We have supposed this title in order to clear certain ideas. So chapter number 2 is about literature review. What is literature review? Literature review is about reviewing research articles, and they have to be about your study or the topic of your thesis. There are two steps in order to write literature review. Step number 1, you need to find articles. Articles on what? You can easily find them, that what kind of articles you need to include in your thesis by looking at the title of your thesis. Now if you see this supposed title, you can see that there are some terms which involve, for example, graphene. Graphene is the material on which you this supposed title is about. So this post title, it shows that one need to find structural and electronic properties. So you will pick graphene as a core component of your literature review, and structural properties, electronic properties, and density functional theory. So the thesis is about structural and electronic properties of graphene, so using density functional theory. So you need to find articles or research articles on structural electronic properties of graphene, and those papers, they can involve density functional theory calculations, or even although this paper is about using only density function theory, which is a theoretical tool, they can be about experimental studies also. You can involve experimental studies also, although your thesis is on theoretical topic. So this is about the literature review. The first step is about finding articles relevant to your topic. Second, you need to write literature review in sections. Literature review is not about writing long paragraphs without any sections. You must involve sections, such as, if you look at on your post title, so it gives you automatically 3-4 types of sections. For example, structural properties, electronic properties, density function theory, and experimental studies. So you can make these section number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so on. So literature review should be in sections in order so that the readers can read it easily. Now, how to write literature review in each section? There are only 2 steps that we have covered. Now we need to know how to write literature review in each section. Literature review must be in chronological order. Chronological order means it should start from the papers that are recently published, and then you should proceed on the past papers. So you should write one paragraph. You can adopt this approach. There are different approaches to write literature review, but one effective approach is that you should write one paper, one paragraph approach. According to this approach, you must make a paragraph about one paper that will involve the summary of that paper. And in order to write the summary of the paper, what is the summary of the paper? It is the actually the main ideas of the article in your own words, and you can simply write it by going through abstract, methodology used, novelty of the work, results, and conclusion of that particular paper. Just read about these points in that paper, and you can write an effective summary. How to write literature review in each section? The third point is that it's not about that you should always make uh, paragraphs. You can also involve tables, flowcharts, figures, etc. As you know that tables, flowcharts, and figures, they cover much space, and it will also be helpful in increasing the length of your thesis. So for example, these are actual footage from a PhD thesis. So you can see that in literature review you can also make tables. For example, there are fundamental band gaps of various solid materials calculated with certain techniques and their experimental results. Table 2.3, important results on structure properties of spinal compounds by other authors. So these are some examples that beside making paragraphs, you can also involve tables, flowcharts, and figures. So from where find articles in chronological order? You can simply use Google Scholar, and in Google Scholar you can set the time. You can view only those papers from a certain year. If you select 2020, the research result will involve only those papers that are published in 2020. You can also use Web of Science uh, if you have access in your university, or the university has provided access Web of Science. This is another uh, search engine. It's a database, but for BS or master student, you can simply use Google Scholar. Let's have a look on an example from an actual PhD thesis. Here is the table of content, and the chapter number is 2, literature review, and you can see that there are some headings and subheadings are involved. Summary of this last one is particularly important. 2.4, summary of important studies. So you can also make summary of important studies after going through the whole literature review. Thank you all.